Next up at Cadwell Park is the Motorsport Caterham 7 270R Championship, and they're sharing the track with the Roadsports. Cars lined up on the grid already then, with Harry Cook and Giuseppe Fillet making up the front row for the 270Rs. We'll ride on board for the start though with Ben Lopez Appleton, who should be a contender, but starts down in 8th. The lights go out, away they go, and Ben doesn't get a great start. He misses a gear, he gets stuck behind as an even slower starter in front of him, and he'll fall right to the back of the 270R pack, which gets underway a little bit earlier than the Roadsports just to try and avoid too much mixing of the groups. They are all cleanly through the first couple of corners though. The Roadsports get away now, and Demetrius Melas from the inside of row 1 looks as though he's got himself ahead of Wes Payne. We're on board with Wes now, who started pole but hasn't been able to retain the lead into the first couple of corners. So as he heads through Charlie's then, the rolling Lincolnshire countryside beckons for these drivers for the next 30 minutes of racing action, with 2 different races to watch out for. It's going to be a really busy time for us trying to keep up with all of the action. Melas trying to close in for the time being, or Wes Payne, sorry, trying to close in on Demetrius Melas up the hill. Can't quite get close enough to attack actually, which is a bit of a surprise given the slipstreaming we've seen at that part of the circuit all weekend long. In the 270s, meanwhile, there has been a collision, I'm afraid. One car in big trouble here early on, and that is a car going no further. It's got damage at the front, and that might have been Giuseppe Fillet. I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah, Giuseppe Fillet, who started on the front row of the grid, is possibly not even going to make it to the end of the opening lap. That's a big shame for one of our potential front runners. The rest of the 270Rs heading through the Hall Bends now, past the cafe and the paddock, which is on the outside of the circuit here. The cars actually have to drive around part of the track to get from the paddock to the grid here at Cadwell because of the compact nature of that end of the racetrack. On board again then as we head through the final couple of corners and back down into the start-finish straight, and it's side by side up towards the front of the field. Look at this brilliant racing going on, and that is number 22, Angelos Alvanos, who we've seen racing in the Caterham categories for a number of years now, who hits the front then, so he gets his car out ahead of both of the front row drivers. Angelos started 3rd on the grid and has made pretty rapid progress already. Further back, Ben Lopez Appleton still trying to make progress, and here car number 2, Andy Lease, tries to gain a place as well. Pulls to the right hand side by side battling wherever you look here. We're going around the outside now of Benjamin Miller, the number 72 car, into Park Corner. At the head of that queue is car number 70, which is Lars Alexander Hoffman, who started up on the second row of the grid but hasn't quite got the pace here in the early stages. Still side by side behind, inches between front and rear wheel, out onto the grass. This is super brave. There's just nowhere to go. You can carry all the momentum in the world through the corners, but if the car you're trying to overtake isn't cooperating, it's almost impossible to get past them. Through Mansfield, sliding around there. It's got a bit cooler out there. There are some slightly threatening rain clouds actually. There is a chance that we could see some rain before the end of the race. Big lock up into the mountain. Again, easy to do that if you're just a bit too late on the brakes, and then they leap back over the hill again into the Hall Bends. And this roller coaster lap, which culminates in that real roller coaster sequence at the end of it. This was Ben Lopez Appleton's start, just didn't get up through the gears. You can almost see him shaking his head in disappointment there as he accelerates towards turn number 1. He will be frustrated with that. Well, there he is, look, still trying to find a way past the 72 car of Ben Miller, and he's waving at him because he's weaving around his Ben. He's not letting the other men, Ben Lopez Appleton, through without a fight here, but Lopez Appleton is now around the outside and goes past at Park Corner, but that took a lot more effort than Ben would have been hoping, and now he's lost touch rather with the leading group. 1 or 2 spots of rain on the camera lens there. Look at that, it's definitely starting to get slippery out there. These cars do run on treaded tyres, but obviously you have less grip when it starts raining, but it's not putting Ben Lopez Appleton off. He goes to the outside, but he runs out of road, he slides on the grass. Well, sometimes you can find grip on the outside line in the wet, but not there, and I think that sudden rain shower caught a few of them out. And Lopez Appleton, after all that hard work to get past Ben Miller, ends up back behind him. That is a fairly significant shunt though, I'm afraid, for Dave Curry in the 177 car. That's one of the Roadsports competitors out of the race, and in a big way, and unsurprisingly, the safety car has been called, and that's just the back end of it. He's already been off, and collects another car, as they went down to the bottom of the hill, and that's car number 13 that he's tangled with. And that is a big incident. 133, excuse me, that was 113 Duncan Cook that he's made contact with. They both end up in the barriers. Well, after a reasonably lengthy safety car period, the race is getting underway again, but the track has continued to get wetter and wetter, and it's going to be a real challenge now for the drivers just to keep it on the island. Heading up towards turn number 1, Ben Lopez Appleton had gained a place there. The Roadsport, of course, have caught up now to the 270Rs. They had that delayed start to allow the two separate races to occupy two different parts of the racetrack, but now that the safety car's been out, it's gathered everyone together. So the Roadsports are, in a way, getting held up now by some of the slower 270Rs. Ben Lopez Appleton is not one of the slower 270Rs, though, and he's not backwards and coming forwards, is he? He goes to the outside of Benjamin Miller again. Must be sick of the sight of the rear end of that car, but he has gone through a little bit more easily this time. Damage there to, I think that's Andy Lee's car in front, and Lopez Appleton twitches wide. He will not want to let Miller back through for a second time. And he does manage to get back online, but look at the way that he's having to work. Have to be so gentle with the throttle application, the brakes, the steering, any sudden movements, and you're probably going to find yourself pointing the wrong way. He's trying to find the grip round the outside again. This is the part of the circuit where he went off a couple of laps ago. Hopefully he'll keep on the black stuff this time around. Roadsports cars coming through. You can tell the Roadsports from the 270Rs because the 270Rs, amongst other things, they shed their headlights when they get transformed from a Roadsport to a 270. So the cars without headlights are the quicker cars, and Ben Lopez Appleton, one of the quickest of those cars, just hasn't got the track position. Muscles his way up the inside of Andy Lee's though, and here comes Benjamin Miller back up the inside again, follows him through, and Andy Lee's is going to lose a third spot there as well, so that did not go to plan, and he's right towards the back of the field now. Ben Lopez Appleton in that grey and blue number 5 car is finally starting to make some forward progress. Miller's up the inside of him again, into the hairpin though. Did he make that one stick? I don't think he did. Lopez Appleton turns into barn corner, still in front, gets very sideways though. It's very greasy underneath those trees and gets rather wet at that part of the track as well. Of course, once it is wet, it takes a bit longer to dry because of the shelter of the trees. That's 181, that's Tom Willis who's leading the Roadsports, and he is now harrying that pair of Benjamin Miller and Ben Lopez Appleton. So the Roadsports in the wet definitely seem to have every bit the pace of the 270Rs. They're not that much less powerful, but actually the fact that they have less horsepower probably makes them more drivable in the slippery conditions. With Lopez Appleton now going to the outside into Park Corner, and this is another place that he's about to make up, is he? No, locks up and goes straight on, and the barriers are coming, and a hefty whack into the Recticel barriers for Ben Lopez Appleton. Well, he's had an entertaining race, but that wasn't the way he wanted it to end. As soon as he hit the grass, he was a passenger, and he knew there was nothing he could do to avoid the wall, and he's rather frustrated with that. He was trying to make an aggressive move on the outside and just ran out of grip. Back to the head of the field now then in the 270Rs, and side-by-side battling is the norm in this category. Head up towards turn number 1, and I think that's Andrew Murgatroyd now who's worked his way towards the front. Yes, car number 84 goes through ahead of Harry Cook, and Andrew Murgatroyd snatches the race lead away. So where did Andrew start? He hasn't really been at the front all race long. No, started 6th on the grid, but in the wet he's really come into his own, and these two have checked out now. Oh, all sorts of carnage behind. Coming out of Barn Corner, some of the Roadsports have got themselves together, and let's hope they can all get going. The car that's stuck on the inside line is maybe going to struggle, and that's Dimitris Melas who's had a spin. So Dimitris Melas was up there in the lead group in the Roadsports, and that's a Park Corner, runs wide, gets onto the grass, and ends up pointing the wrong way. Back with the 270Rs though, and off the road and into the barriers, and that is a sorry end to Benjamin Miller's race. So both he and Ben Lopez Appleton in the barriers now, and with lots of drivers starting to run out of grip, the red flag has been thrown. So Tom Willis then brings home a fairly comfortable win in the Roadsports in the end over Carl Jones second, and Wes Payne, the pole sitter, ends up in third.
Our first Roadsport winner of the year, Tom!
I decided to play it safe because I was in a battle that wasn't mine, and I made that mistake earlier on in the race, trying to get through, and then I lost a wing with contact. So I decided to play it safe because I couldn't see Cole behind me, and then left it like that. So interesting, strange race, but happy to survive it.
In the 270Rs, because of the red flag, the result went back a lap, so it was Harry Cook who ended up back in front. Andrew Murgatroyd just misses out on a victory, whilst Lars Alexander Hoffman is back on the podium.
The last thing I expected was it to rain at the end, so just the tyres were cold, especially behind the safety car, and then there was pretty much no grip. People going around the outside of you and you're just sort of swerving into them, so...
Well, it's been another fantastic weekend of racing here at Cadwell Park. Join us next time at Thruxton for more of the same.